We got the numbers. We talked about Michael Jordan. We talked about Magic Johnson. Now today, we're going to get into the undisputed greatest shooter in NBA history, Steph Curry. What if he plays to 38 years old? Where does that put him amongst the list of the all-time greats? Where is he? Where does he fall when it comes to LeBron, Kobe, Shaq, MJ, both MJs, Kareem? We're going to find out today. Run the court. Let's get it, baby.
We playing, we one in the same. But what I need to know is who running the same.
I go hard in the paint.
Yeah, we love the sport. In the game since day one, we run the court.
All right, Ryan, we're back at it. Steph Curry's been one of the most prolific scorers and greatest players of this era, even though he's been out a bunch of times this year.
Right now, despite being injured, he's averaging 29.4 points per game, but he's only done that through 38 games, so he doesn't even qualify on that league leaderboard. But if he did, he'd be in 8th on the scoring list this year, right behind LeBron and right ahead of Spider Mitchell. But yeah, over the last decade, he's definitely been one of the most prolific scorers and one of the best passers in the league.
Career-wise, he took a little while to get going, right?
So it's funny. I always thought about this. Everybody always talks about early in his career, he had bum ankles. You know, he was injury prone, took him a while to get going before he got that Under Armour contract and really made his name. I actually think that's a little bit of a misconception because when I look back on this, in his first 8 seasons, he never actually played less than 78 games in a season, except for year 3 when his ankles did get the best of him. He's actually been more plagued by injuries in more recent years, because he's only averaged 50 games a year over the last 5 seasons. And that's a number that's been affected by the one season he only played 5 games, but even take that out of it.
Question is, can he play to 38? He's 34 now. He's already got lagging injuries. Always figured he's a little light in the ass. You know what I mean? That's just his physique. He's still light-skinned and frightening, but he's light in the ass, bro, and they bang him around. That's why he's always running around without the ball. Bang him around, pause. That's why he's always running around without the ball, but that's when he's most dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, right? Because they always talk about Steph makes basketball feel like every kid can achieve it because he's a shooter. But people forget it's not like he's 5'8" and some tiny guy, but he looks a lot lighter out there than a lot of these guys. But he's also been running around a lot, and that definitely leads to the question, can he play to 38? And that's why we, kind of projected out to 38 and we didn't go to 40 because I just don't believe that he's got 6 more years in him. Certainly not at the level he's playing at.
Nah, he's been plagued too much. I don't think he's gonna make it too much longer. I want to see what his numbers would be if he did make it that far, and you broke it down. So let's get into it.
The way we did this, we gave him the benefit of the doubt. He's a nice guy, so we're being nice here. Best case scenario, right? He plays 72 games a year for the next 4 years, and we looked at his career average and then sort of a projected average, which has him declining each of those 4 years, down to the point that at 38, he's averaging 21 points a game. So that's the 2 ways we looked at it.
What's the range of outcomes looking at it both ways?
First, I need you to give me a guess as to all-time points scoring leader, where you think he's going to fall on that list if he gets 4 more seasons.
It's tough to call him because of the amount of time he misses. I feel like the last couple of years of his career, he's gone, and then they turn him on later on in the season. He's activated and he goes off. Taking that in consideration, he's missed a lot of games. Does it put him in the top 10 of scoring? Possibly. I think so. I would say yes.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good guess. So if you take, whether you take his career average or this projected decline that we've put in here for the next 4 years, he ends up 8th on the all-time scoring list, behind Wilt Chamberlain and right above Shaq.
That's good company. I was just concerned about him getting in the top 10. You're saying he's number 8 and he's surrounded by superstars, but I would have pegged him. Pause. Yeah, so, like I said, if he would have not been injured, I think he would have broken into the top 5. But outside of points, what about the other categories? Where does it put him, other facets of the game?
Yeah, so in steals, 4 more years at his career average would put him 17th all time, not shabby. In assists, he'd either be 14th or 16th, depending on the 2 ways we analyze this. Again, not shabby, maybe, a little bit surprising. I think what was most surprising for me, rebounds by a guard, he'd either finish 8th or 9th all time.
That's surprising. I mean, he's a better passer than a rebounder, obviously. Look, can you just fulfill my request?
Yes.
Let's say he wasn't plagued by those injuries and he averaged 72. I know you did the numbers. Let's pinpoint where he would be.
Over the course of his career, and if he plays 4 more years, averaging 72 games, in terms of points, he'd get to that number 5 all time.
Oh, I called it.
You did. You actually did call that, and we didn't pre-plan this. You did call that.
I didn't pre-plan it. There wasn't an email that said that back and forth. I called 5.
And then on the other categories, he climbs up a little bit more. 12th all time in steals. Good, not great. 12th in assists. Again, a little bit surprising. I thought maybe he'd be a little higher. And then 7th in rebounds by a guard.
That guy changed the game, but based on these numbers, that doesn't put him in the top tier, the Kobe, LeBron, MJ tier. He's not in that tier. So where does he fall in your eyes? What tier is he in?
Yeah, I mean, I think he falls in that second tier. If you're just talking about greatest of all time, probably, the highest I could conceive having him is approaching 10, somewhere in that like 8 to 13 range, somewhere in there.
Don't forget his rings, Ryan. His rings bump you.
No, that's true. I think that's why I maybe think like the lower single digits. But I think, look, all that aside, I kind of believe that he may have had more of an impact on the game of basketball than almost anybody in the way it's played. I mean that specifically in how people play the game. Jordan took the popularity of the sport to a whole nother level: marketing, branding, business, globalization, just all of that. And he did change the way the game was played. I mean, the book was called The Jordan Rules, right? And there were those Jordan rules that how the game defense was changed because of the way Jordan affected the game. But Steph, when you look at the game from when we were kids to today, at every level, amateur, middle school, but particularly the NBA, the role of analytics, the role of three-point shooting, all those things, that Steph completely changed the game. And I don't know that I ever saw a change in the game affected by one person the same way I have from Steph.
We haven't, because you see it all the way at every level of ball. You see it in the parks. You see it at CYO, Catholic Youth Organizations, PAL. Everybody's pulling up. Everybody's pulling up from 3. Everybody's focusing on their handle to try to get themselves freed open for a shot. They heave it up. But some of it is to their detriment because they're not smooth like that. Like Steph had Serge Ibaka heaving up threes for a couple seasons. You know what I mean? Like, guys are not 3-point shooter physiques are pulling up, shooting threes.
Right. I mean, the way they've stretched the floor, the way the game is spread out, the way, try to get guys regardless. A guy like Steph, a bigger guy who's 7-footers, Kevin Durant and that type, Serge Ibaka, like you were saying. A lot of these guys like Larry Johnson, you think that's the only person I could think of back in the day before Steph that was a bigger guy, like 6'6", whatever. I mean, big body, and he was shooting threes later in his career, but that was more because he couldn't play the same way and his game evolved. But Steph has just changed it because he does one thing so much better than anybody really in history in terms of volume, in terms of percentage. And when you start looking at the expected outcome of a 3-pointer when you're shooting 40% versus a 2-pointer when you're shooting, 50% or 55% or whatever, that changes the way the analytics affect the game. Teams just start shooting threes. You even got this one college team that's crazy that they only shoot threes. They don't do anything but. And I mean, they actually play pretty good, and they always have these guys breaking scoring records, but they just look at the game, and it's kind of like with football, you got that college football team that's like, we're going to go for it on every 4th down, every single time, like they're playing Madden or something. Basketball, that team's doing the same thing, but it's interesting how it's affected the game.
All right, well, here's the question everybody wants to hear. Did he influence and change the game more than LeBron James, Steph Curry?
From how it's played, yes, absolutely. I think LeBron came in and he was so dominant. He was so good from an early age, but I don't think he did anything that different. I mean, he did it better. He could score in ways like he could play more positionless. He affected positionless basketball, although that was already in effect a little. But Steph, I think the way he changed the game with the three, LeBron's effect pales in comparison on that metric.
I kind of agree with you there. Like LeBron's obviously a different style of player, and it's his style can't really be replicated unless you're coming with that physique and with that set of skills. You know, his handle, his passing, and being that physique. Somebody that comes up that physique usually defers to the boards. They're going under there. They're playing small forward, power forward.
Right.
So for now, you're just going to see, they're going to be big guys that are going to be running the point. I don't know. It's very rare because I'll find you 20, smaller guys that are natural point guards that are nasty. So it'll be hard.
When you had guys that were positionless, Lamar Odom types, bigger guys playing the one and things like that fell outside of that traditional convention before LeBron. I don't think there was a guy shooting threes the way Steph Curry did. I mean, it's just changed the game.
No, I agree. I mean, he did shooting 3-pointers. That's what he does. Like when you look at LeBron, he has, a plethora of different ways that he scores. A lot of times he's just north, south, here he comes. But Steph, if you just shoot 500 shot 3-pointers every night, you know what I mean? You're not guaranteed to grow like LeBron, but if you shoot 500 3-pointers, you can start sinking them at a high percentage, and you could structure your game coming up like that.